see Lindelof videos graphing a relatively complicated sine function. When you're graphing a sine function, you just need to gather some pieces. And the way I do it is this. If there's a negative sign, in general, if there's a negative sign in front of the number, in front of sine, that means that you have a reflection. So I'm just going to say, okay, I have a reflection across the x-axis. So one thing, I have a reflection. The next thing I can get is the amplitude. So I see this value here, which is 6. So amplitude is equal to the absolute value of A. A is -6, so the amplitude is 6. We're going to go through what this does. Also, your professor wants to know what the period of the function is. So the period of the function is always, of cosine or sine, is always 2 pi over omega, where this is omega. So in our case, we have 2 pi over pi thirds. This looks kind of crappy, so I'm just going to rewrite my 2 pi, and 2 pi is certainly the same as 2 pi over 1, isn't it? That way I can see more easily. We have a complex fraction. So to solve a complex fraction, you just take the fraction in the numerator times the reciprocal of the fraction in the denominator. So the reciprocal of pi thirds is 3 over pi. Pi cancels, doesn't it? Gives us 2 times 3 is 6, so we have a period of 6. This is just I swear to God, this is just a coincidence, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start graphing. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is something that, and also we have a vertical shift of +4. That's this +4 right here. And this will really help you. This also is your horizontal axis of symmetry. Is y is equal to 4. I'll show it to you really quick. So this is how I'm going to graph this. I really am. I'm going to graph this way. I'm going to draw this line. This is not the x-axis. I'm just going to draw that line there, though. And then if you remember, we had a reflection, didn't we? So this normal sine curve does that, doesn't it? So ours does this, right? We said that the period was 6. That makes this 0, and that makes this x value 6. That makes this value 3, doesn't it? That makes this value 3 halves, doesn't it? This middle value, I'm just using midpoint theorem. So 6 plus 3 is 9. 9 divided by 2 is 9 halves. So I'm just looking for those values here, right? And now, if you remember, I said that we had a vertical shift of 4. That means that this line here is y is equal to 4, right? Y is equal to 4. So we almost have this graphed, right? Now I'm just going to evaluate this at these landmarks. So I'm going to evaluate -6 sine pi thirds x plus 4. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to substitute in these values. So I'll put in 0, 0. So sine of pi thirds times 0 is sine of 0. Sine of 0 is 0. -6 times 0 is 0. Plus 4 is 4. So I have the point here, 0, 4. Right? And that makes sense because we had that here, didn't we? Now I'm just going to go to this next point, next x value. The next angular value is 3 halves. So I put in 3 halves. The 3's cancel. I get sine. So I get sine of of pi halves. I'm at my unit circle. I know that sine of pi halves is equal to 1, right? Is 1. So negative, right? So when I evaluate this, I get 1. -6 times 1 is -6 plus 4 is -2. -2. If this line is 4, right? If this line is 4, down 6 from +4 is -2, isn't it? So that makes sense. I'm going to evaluate this value, right, which is 3. So I'll drop a 3 in here. If you look, these 3's cancel. Now I'm evaluating sine of pi. Sine of pi is 0. -6 times 0 is 0. Plus 4 is 4. So this is 0.34. And I'm just going to keep doing that. Let's do the next one. The next one is 9 halves. I'll put in 9 halves. This one cancels. This one goes to 3. This is 3 pi halves. So I get negative 6 times negative 1 plus 4 equals 10. Well, we said we had a amplitude of 6. So 6 up from 4 is 10. That makes perfect sense to me. So we get 9 halves 10. And I'll do the same thing for here. All right? Hopefully you're able to see this. Let me show you this really quick on a calculator. I'll put in negative 6 times sine of pi thirds x plus 4. Looks crazy, doesn't it? But look at this. If I go back and I graph this again, look, if I take this and I go to tab here and I put in y is 4, hopefully you can see that the distance from this line here to this maximum point up here is 6, and the distance from here to here is 6. So that's how you graph it. We're not graphing it, when we do our graph, we're not graphing it against the x-axis down here. We're graphing it against this line here. You guys, this is pretty difficult stuff, and I know that it is. I'll do more videos on this. Your comments really help me a lot. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the support.